Hey everyone, and welcome back. We will be diving into the world of portraiture and getting really serious about drawing faces. So I know a lot of us uh, start to panic when we think of drawing faces, but I want you to know that we are going to take a very easy approach. So it actually won't be really that hard. It will be more enjoyable than it will be difficult. Um, but I just had to take down a few decorations in the background. I had a birthday party that was Pokemon themed. I have some other Pokemon stuff. I even got a Pokemon towel, Pokemon tablecloth, all of that. So if you see Pokemon in the background, that's totally why. Okay, so a few things I want to talk about on this assignment is this is just a starting point for you. I'll list all of the important details in terms of size, medium, any restrictions, how many iterations in the discussion post, but this is really for you to be creative and branch out and try something new. It is so important to me that you develop a creative strategy and something that works for you and something that you'll be proud of. So I decided to do this digitally. For my example, I also do it by hand in the video, but I want you to pick a route that works best for you. And it doesn't matter, it can be either digital or by hand, or you could do a combination of both. And you're always welcome to meet with me on Zoom and I can walk you through that. But let's get started and let's dive into the video. So at this point, my head should pop down into the corner and I'll be a little guy now. So this is part one of self-portrait. So step one, I want you to take several reference photos, and it is so critical that these photos are taken with high contrast. And by contrast, I mean a lighting source that's by the face and then some sort of dark background. So I took this in my kitchen with a lighter. If you're using fire, please be safe. And then what I'm doing here is I just put it in front of my face, to the side of my face, and I'm changing my eye movements, and I'm trying to figure out which one is going to be best to use as a reference photo. And keep in mind, we live in the 21st century, and using reference photos is acceptable and very much okay. So please know that this is part of the process. And then step two, I want you to evaluate your photos and pick one that feels best to you. And again, make sure you have those dark values and jet blacks in them, because it'll make your outcome much more fruitful and visually interesting. And then after that, we are going to move into Photoshop. So I want you to download Photoshop. I'll have instructions linked here, but we're going to open in Photoshop, and then we are going to unlock that layer. And then down here, I am just playing with a few settings. And what I need to do here is turn that in black and white. So I turned it in black and white right away, just by simply clicking that button. If you need to go back and rewatch this, please do. But that is the first step. We need to see these values. And then here I am going in and I am changing a few things. So I'm using what's called levels. And if you use these three little markers here, you can get a sort of tone that works best for you. I want something that's really dramatic. So I just changed those shadows and those brights a little bit to get something I'm happy with. And then after that, we are going to do a step that's called posturization. And so I'm going up here, and then after the menu selection, I open up this posturizer tool, and keep in mind you may have to go back and rewatch this to see what buttons I click, but let's pick a posturization level that feels good. So if you go super high or super low, it won't be very readable, but we just want to create chunks of value that we can draw, and I was comfortable at about a 4. So I'm going to leave it at a 4. Maybe it was a 3 or 4, I can't quite remember. But that is what I have currently. And then I'm just going to go ahead and save this. And then keep in mind, you will have to save the Photoshop file first, and then you can go in and do File, Save a Copy As, and then down here you can click JPEG. And it may look different if you're on a PC or Mac. You can see me just saving that file right there. Okay, and then I'm going back and just being extra sure I saved that. Okay, so once we wrap up that portion of file saving, what's really important that we move on to is understanding how we're going to put this into practice. So I have pictures on our Canvas page of how you can trace this on a digital tablet, and that's pretty easy, but I want to show you a technique that you're probably aware of. But what I'm going to do here is I am going to, for step 6, I'm going to print out my photo, and this is if I'm doing it by hand. Keep in mind you have a choice. You can do either or both, and I'll walk you through if you want to do both. Just message me. But here I am getting my reference photos ready. And keep in mind that a reference photo may not print the way you intend to the first time, so you may have to go back to your Photoshop file and change the brightness, and that's exactly what I had to do. And now I flip that over, I grab my little handy dandy charcoal, and once I have that charcoal, I'm going to start rubbing that on the back of my drawing. And then keep in mind when you're done rubbing, just make sure that your hands are clean so you're not tracking that charcoal all over your drawing. And this is just a way to create cheap transfer paper at home without having to actually buy it. And then I'm just rubbing the back of my printer paper. That's really all you need. And this is just a practice round, so I'm using my newsprint, which is totally fine. I would encourage you to do that for practicing. And then I'm just getting good coverage on that. And then it's helpful to approach it from a few different angles. So I did up and down, diagonal, and then again in another direction. And once I do that, I'm going to flip that over, and I will use a little bit of tape so it doesn't wiggle around. And that is super important. So make sure you get that tape here. And now I'm going in overdrive, high speed here. I put the video at 400%, and then I am just simply tracing the blocks of values. So make sure to trace those blocks of values. That's what we're doing here. We are taking a baby step to drawing a portrait, and this is such an easy, achievable way to do that. And I want you to know that these are tools we have, and any tool an artist has, that doesn't make them less of an artist. It makes them resourceful, and they have the ability to use what's around them. And we could spend time to draw this out and sketch it, but we really have spent time on observation already, and we're here to create some meaningful art that has an impact. So this is that first step. And then as we move forward, you'll see all the cool things we do in part 2. But this first part is just mapping that out, either digitally or by hand. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.